So the Gillette principle is as follows. I'm going to give you the razor. I'm going to give it you. Free. What do you have to buy?
The stick.
No, I'm giving you the stick.
Okay.
I'm giving you the stick. What do you have to buy?
Do I have to buy the blades, the razors? Shaving cream?
No, you have to buy the blades. But I've given you the stick. And how long will the stick last?
Without a blade. Without a blade.
Well, no, I'll give you one blade to start with. I'll give you 3 blades to start with. But what's going to happen over the next 10 years?
You need to keep buying.
You have to buy more.
It's known as the Gillette principle. It's brilliant. It's genius. It's the fundamental way in which many companies do business. We'll give you what you think is the expensive bit. Rolls-Royce does it with engines on planes. They sell the engines cheaply, or relatively cheaply, but they have a maintenance contract to look after them. It's clever. Anyway, but what I'm saying is, so those companies that are working to a certain extent, spotting the masses, getting phones into their hands, ensuring that they use their apps, getting them to use the fintech solutions that they're putting in there, getting them to use the social media options that they're in there, and making not even a naira, whatever what's the subdivision of a naira? It's called the getting just a few comments from everybody regularly. That's how you build a business. Right, next. So the answer to your question, I'm going to be brutal. Is Nigeria going to be in the top league in the near future? No. It'll overtake South Africa. Yeah, but that's just a product of size and oil price.
So what's the timeline that you see?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it depends on 1,001 things. It depends on the oil price. It depends on the Niger Delta peace. The security issue. It depends on the ability of the government to continue with its anti-corruption measures. It depends on all those sort of issues. Look, the one thing I've been most encouraged by while I've been here happened yesterday when I was at the radio station, the 98, Smooth 98, and when I was at Nigeria Info. I was meeting people of your age. Okay? I'm assuming that everybody around this table, with the exception of me, is under 40. I'm assuming that everybody around this table, with the exception of me, is under 30. You are all energetic, intelligent, educated, aggressive, lively, debatable. You'll debate hard. And this was like the same people I met at these radio stations. They were all amazing. I mean, these kids were generally, I say kids, pardon my, I'm 55. Most people are kids compared to me. But I was energized by listening, and I was fascinated. And all the radio stations I went to, all the presenters were women. Asking hard, penetrating questions. That's the future of this country. The future of this country is not miserable old farts like me, or people in their 50s. The future of the country is you. And that is, I firmly believe, Nigeria's secret weapon. A well-educated, intelligent, lively, aggressive youth that will eventually turn around and say, I'm going to put up with this crap. Run your business honestly. Government, we expect you to do it properly. We want decent roads. It's going to take time.
Okay, so we've had a rise in startups coming up from the tech sector in Nigeria currently, and we feel in the next couple of years they have what it takes to actually put Nigeria up there in global context. So do you think that is actually possible?
No.
Why?
Same reason. You're going to be a player.
Okay.
You're going to be a player when you get your act together. You see the difference here? I could sit here now and I could tell you what you want to hear, right? I could sit here now and I could tell you Nigeria is going to be number one in this, and Nigeria is going to be a world leader in that, and Nigeria will do this and do that, and you'd all go and you'd all go, hey. Yeah, go Nigeria. Do you believe it? You will have a tech sector in the same way that Afro1 is building a phone here. In the same way that there is a thriving and growing fintech, financial app sector that will appeal, but it's not going to be appealing to the middle classes, it's going to be appealing to the masses. Are you going to be the next Israel? Startup nation? No. You could be. You could be. But you can't be while you can't get a road that's going to get the product out of the country. You can't be while you can't get, you go to Israel or go to Tel Aviv, you can get Wi-Fi on a teaspoon. So the temptation is to tell you what you want to hear. The reality is that it will take a lot longer, and it's going to have to take leadership from the top. You will have these beacons of brilliance, and everybody will cluster around them. And you will have these, you've got this computer, where am I going next? Computer
Village?
Right, Computer Village. You've got Computer Village. But how big is Computer Village?
It's really big. It's quite big.
But what does it do?
It's a hub for, everything that has to do with phones, tabs, gadgets.
Selling stuff.
Selling things, yes.
Right, but where is the centre for developers? Where you're always going to have places to buy the stuff. I mean, look, for God's sake, buying this hardware is the easy bit. Selling hardware is not difficult. Mm-hmm. That is not the Joel here. If you look at Israel, they call Israel the startup nation because Israel has created an entire industry for 1,001 reasons related to security, to defense, to the Israeli Defense Forces, to the fact that everybody goes through the military. There's 1,001 reasons why. We don't need to go into that. But Israel has become a world leader. A country of 6 million, 7 million people has become a world leader in technology, to the point where billions of dollars are being invested in Israel for the startup nation. That's what you've got. One thing that they haven't. You've got 170 million people. You've got a vast country, but it's going to take time. Don't focus on the hardware. The hardware is the easy bit. The hardware's this is the nice shiny bit. It's the education for the code developers. And what you have, of course, in this country, which is brilliant, is the entrepreneurs. You've got entrepreneurs by the ton. Every one of you I know around this table has 15 ideas that you want to try and make a business about, correct?
Sure.
But you will succeed in spite of government, not because of it. You will succeed in spite of all the restrictions on. How many of you have got a generator at home?
Virtually everyone.
Sorry?
Everybody.
One or two, even more than one. Even more than one.
Actually, only one. How many do you have?
I've got news for you. In the developed world, most of us don't have generators. Where I live, I've got an apartment, but in New York, I don't have a generator. The lights stay on 24 hours a day. If the lights go off in part of New York or a particular district, that's a news story. Why did it happen? So, to your point, and this is really serious that you understand, you can become as obsessed as you like by these, and computers, and blogging, and what's fashionable. But until you start asking questions, why do the lights go off? Why do we need generators where my mother has to spend hard-earned money to buy diesel so I can watch television in the evening? Hang on, I don't think that happens. It's happening more in South Africa, but it doesn't happen in France or Sweden or Australia or South Korea. Those are the hard questions. They are the really tough questions, and they're not sexy. They're not, what ties does Richard Quest wear? Is Richard Quest gay? What car do I drive? Where do I go on holiday? Those are the hard questions that will determine the hard questions that will determine the future of this country are the ones that you asked. What will it take so we have electricity 24 hours a day? What will it take so that there's a decent road to the airport, so that goods and services can actually travel in and out? Not sexy. Oh, I know you're all sitting here thinking, this all sounds a bit serious. But you asked me the question, when will Nigeria become a top economic country? And you asked me,
what will happen with the number of startups that are coming up from Nigeria?
Yeah, the number of startups will be here because there's 176 million, but will they thrive? They're going to need to thrive because they've got electricity, and they're going to thrive when they don't have to spend X $100 or whatever it is, thousands of naira a month on diesel. That's the reality.
I think that, this sounds good in theory because everybody wants to get to that the point where we don't have to stop complaining about the basic things, but nobody is releasing the power to even the younger people.
Oh yeah, you do. Oh, you do. Oh yes, you do. You have a lot of power. Oh yes, you do. Do not fall for that old bromide. What difference can I make? I'm just one person. That's a load of crap. You don't do it individually, you do it collectively. It becomes eventually through the power. Look, the significance of your power. When I started at your age, to get a message out, I needed me, I needed a camera, I needed an entire television station or a newspaper to print thousands upon tens of thousands of newspapers. I needed a transmitter. I needed people watching television. Now, all you need is, and something goes viral. The power of that is unbelievable. Unbelievable. So this, to your point, the ability for you to affect change, and it won't happen overnight. This is something else. I mean, your generation wanted it yesterday, correct?
Yes.
I wanted it and I want it yesterday, never mind now. And if you haven't got it now, something's wrong. And you've all got the attention span of a goldfish. In terms of, in many ways. We all have now. We all have, I have as well. But the ability for collectively you all to say, at the next election, hang on, which politician actually is going to promise better electricity? Which politician is actually going to reform women's rights or gay rights or whatever it might be? Which politician is actually going to do what they say? And it won't happen just with Pulse, and it won't happen just with your site, and it won't happen just with your program. But once you all start saying it. How many people read Pulse?
We get about 4 million.
How many?
About 4 million a month.
Right. Yourselves? Anybody else? Give me some other numbers.
2.5 million.
Right?
Yeah, so we get around 4 to 5 million.
It's huge. It's huge. Have you any idea how powerful that is? You have got a main line into the younger generation of this country. You have more power and responsibility than you realise. How you use it is up to you. And I'm not saying you do a diet of how do we keep the lights on, but have you done a feature 24 hours of darkness? Have you done a feature? Have any of you written about how many times the lights went off last night? Or in 24 hours? Just find a home. Find any home. Get your readers. Get your you don't have readers, do we? What do you call them?
Writers.
Sorry?
Writers.
Get the people readings to send in their log. Ask all readers, because you're across the country, to send in their log of how many times the lights went off in the last 24 hours.
I mean, Richard, there are doctors performing surgery
On the handle.
Right. So, Mrs. Mbawa has written to has submitted this line. She got light for 2 hours between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. Dr. Smith has written in and said he got light for his lights went off 15 times. This is just an example.
Yeah.
Start naming and shaming.
I will say that we've been doing this, like you said earlier, that we are the future of the country. We ask these questions, we have conversations on social media, things that trend, things that go viral. Another issue is not just about us putting it out there, but then taking that conversation offline and actually having an effective response to that. Also, concerning power, I've written about power a couple of times. I've had interviews with people, stakeholders in the industry. Then it comes down to the case of corruption again. They tell you that, a certain amount of...
I was in Ethiopia, forgive me, you've heard this story because you were here earlier. I was in Ethiopia for Live 8 years ago, and I was talking to the head of UNICEF, right? And we were in this hellhole of it wasn't a refugee camp, it was just a poor town in the middle of nowhere in Ethiopia. And there were hundreds of babies. They were being inoculated, they were being fed papa nut or whatever it is that they feed them for nutrition. And I said to the guy, how would you not become overwhelmed, which is what you're talking about? How would you not become overwhelmed? And I said, how do you know where to start? He said, it's very simple, Richard, very simple. You start with the child in front of you. And that's it. Now, what he means by that is you start with the problem in front of you now. And you deal with that problem now. And then from that you create a strategy for dealing with it the next time. And then you create a strategy for this bit, and for that bit, and for that bit, and for that bit. And you won't do it on your own. But I promise you, if you start a campaign, she'll notice that, hey, hang on, that website's doing something. Why are they doing something? And he'll notice, well, hang on a second, they're getting traction on this. They're making progress. And you'll start saying, oh God, hang on, what the hell he's up to? How the hell's he managed to do that? Jesus, can we please get something on this, please? And that's how it happens. I know I can see don't worry, I can see the absolute disbelief and cynicism in your eyes. But let me ask you a question. What's the alternative? What's the alternative?
None really. You just have to keep talking about it.
No, what's the alternative?
Things don't change.
Oh, then I've got news for you if you believe that. Get out. Get out of your job. Get out of your job because you don't belong in it. Go and write about fashion. Well, nice to have a bit of fashion articles, a few nice little pieces about that. Go and write about that. But if you want to make change, if that's your goal, it's in no other way. It's not going to be easy. Do you not think I have it on a much grander scale. We're talking about Wall Street, and we're talking about Wall Street. I'll give you an example of how change can happen. You want a real example? Sexual harassment in the workplace. For 15 years, there was a top presenter on one of our rival networks, Fox, who's clearly been sexually harassing people at work. Bill O'Reilly. Clearly. Fox knew about it. There have been numerous articles over the years, there have been numerous settlements, $13 million, and all of a sudden the New York Times, there's an article about it last month, on the back of Roger Ailes, who's the CEO who was fired. And suddenly, this man, who is the #1 cable host in the United States, and has been for 15 years, is fired. It is like a landslide in television in America, because the New York Times did an article about it. Now, I'm not the New York Times, and neither are you. But collectively, you've all got great power, huge power. Next question.
Do you think Nigeria needs a sort of Silicon Valley sort of cluster here in Nigeria for the tech world in Nigeria?
Just think about what you've asked. Just think about what you've asked. Does Nigeria need a Silicon Valley? Of course it does. But is that the most important thing? If you're going to have a Silicon Valley, what else do you need before you put it in there? Well, you need to have power. You need to have roads. You need to have a place that people want to go and live. I'll give you an example. The Silicon Valley, the example you need to think about is Bangalore in India. Bangalore in India is a vast, high-tech industry in the subcontinent. It's huge. It is, you've got Silicon Valley, you've got Bangalore, it's the outsourcing place of the world. You could do it, absolutely you could do it. But, it'll take a lot longer than that. So you'll end up with some bright sparks, you'll end up with a couple of examples of it. And yeah, it could happen. It could happen, yeah. It would be good because the future is tech. Now, the government wants to diversify the economy, and I've already told you it's not going to happen overnight. How long do you think it would take to set up a Silicon Valley? And what do you need, first of all, before you set it up? Well, you need to have a place where people can go, where they feel free, where they feel open, and where they can carry on with their work. That's the first thing. You also need to feel safe. You now need to attract not only your own people here, but also people from outside. So you need to have bloody good internet. You need to have regular, powerful internet. And now you need to have an environment where creative people will thrive. So why am I being so brutal about this? Instead of saying, yeah, it'd be really good. There'll be 3 companies and they'll all make great things and Nigeria will be known as the Silicon Valley because you're putting the cart before the horse. Because your biggest asset is your youth and intelligence and education. It is not people of my age. It's not the miserable old government ministers and CEOs that we all know and love. You are the secret weapon. And when you choose to play your role, phenomenal things will happen. So there will be people who'll start. There'll be people who will start small companies, and other people will be attracted, and then other people will be attracted, and suddenly you will have a Silicon Valley happened, Bangalore happened because people were attracted. It's known as clusters. And before long, more people join, and before long, it's got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and before long, it really is a force to be reckoned with. It can't happen here. You haven't got the infrastructure. You get 10 IT companies setting up in the same place. What's going to happen? So, back to power. I know you think I'm boring. I know you think I'm being really... Why isn't he telling us how marvelous we are?
We don't think you're being boring. I think it's a thing of this conversation has to be had.
It does, but you're the ones who have to have it. And I'm not saying your entire website and your entire social media page and your entire Facebook page has to be full of this doom and gloom. Because, I went to a restaurant the other night. What was that restaurant, Stephanie? That bar, sorry?
Terraculture. Where you had jollof rice?
Oh, no, you and your bloody jollof rice. What was the mention this jollof rice? I will go to my grave thinking jollof rice. No, what was that place where I went to the other night?
Utopia.
Yes, Utopia. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
Right, Utopia, very happening, very lively. And I suddenly found myself, I could have been in Paris, I could have been in New York, I could have been anywhere. In terms of, people, the environment, the discussion that was taking place, could have been anywhere. That's why I've got huge optimism for this country. Huge optimism. Next question.
How much of the African youth bulge and the fact that we're going to, according to the numbers, have the biggest working population in the world, how much of it is going to be a benefit when you look at the fact that the likes of China are aging and their advantages with respect to labor?
Huge. You're absolutely vast. Of course, that's incredibly significant. You're going to have the largest, you're going to have one of the largest, most intelligent, educated populations in the world. Right on your doorstep. Companies will be flocking in to sell things to you. And government needs to get its act together. And those older politicians that are corrupt need to get out of the way, and some people need to be locked up, and the message needs to go out clear from people like yourselves that it's not acceptable to be corrupt. And let me tell you something, I said this earlier to people. Whenever I mention the C word, corruption, I get roundly criticised. Roundly criticised. Oh, you Westerner. All you ever do when you come to Nigeria is moan on about corruption. And then I'm at dinner privately with some CEOs or decision makers, or yourselves, decision makers, influencers, and I say privately, what's the biggest problem? And you say corruption. You know, people not doing what they're supposed to do. People wanting, do you agree? Yes. Sorry?
I do agree.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Do you agree? Do you agree?
Yes.
Agree?
Yes.
But if I say it, suddenly, oh, this is dreadful. This is dreadful. Terrible.
The same thing happens here though. If a Westerner, somebody from the South, talks about the challenges of human development in the North, it's a very, very big issue.
Yeah,
But if a Northerner says it, it may sit much more properly.
yeah, I agree. But until, you're familiar with the Emperor's New Clothes, correct? Until somebody actually says, excuse me, you're naked. No, really, I promise you, you are naked. Nothing happens. Unless you have got some very serious problems between the South and the North, where a completely different set of values can often shift the debate. And not only that, where you have a serious security issue, which is much better than it was. But I'll give you an example of where the rest of the world looked with undisguised horror. Undisguised horror. When the girls were taken, what year was that?
2014. April 14.
For the first few weeks, there didn't seem to be outrage. I interviewed government ministers and they said, oh no, we're doing all we can. Let me just put this into a little bit of perspective for you. If one girl was kidnapped in Northern England, there would be wall-to-wall coverage until she was found. In the United States, if 5 girls went missing, the President of the United States would be seriously involved. How many were taken?
276.
I'm sorry, and how many have been released?
20.
So somewhere in your country there are 250 odd girls still being kidnapped. Still kidnapped. Still kidnapped. Probably raped. Married, that's a horrible way to put it. Put into servitude. Now, forgive me, ladies and gentlemen. Where is your outrage about this 3 years on? Where's your outrage? So, before you start asking me, can we have a Silicon Valley? And you start asking me, when are we going to have fast economic growth? And you're worried about the latest iPhone 9 or 7 or 6. I say to you, when are you going to worry about 250 odd of your fellow people who are still kidnapped? When is that going to become the number one? I know this is serious stuff. I feel your pain. I hear your sigh. And it's back to you with the power. Oh, well, what can we do about it? Well, what the hell job do you think you're doing? What's your job? What's your job?
I'm a media consultant.
That sounds very posh. Maybe you should work out what that means. What's your job?
I'm a journalist.
What's your job? What's your job?
Journalist.
PR.
Sorry?
PR.
PR?
Yeah.
Right, so your job is to basically tell me that up is down and in is out. Your job?
PR also. Journalist.
What do you mean by journalist?
I'm someone who have to make sure that people are informed and then get to the bottom of every story.
Why did you want to do this?
Because I wanted to bring about change in my community.
What change have you brought about?
I've informed people.
Yeah, keep going. What change? That's it. This is what you do. You don't bring change about yourself, you inform people. And those informed people then vote for different people. Or those informed people then change it themselves. This is right, this is what you do. Do you see where I'm going? So when you wake up in the morning, say there's still 250 girls who have been kidnapped in my country. What's the government doing about this? Where do we stand on this? Not easy. I'll give you an example in the United States. The battle at the moment over Planned Parenthood and the funding of Planned Parenthood, which is the backbone for many women's medical and health provision, including termination of pregnancies. But journalists have to battle for that issue in the US. In the United Kingdom, it's about the health service, it's about Brexit. I know you all want to do red carpet. I know you love. I hate it myself. There's nothing more depressing than doing red carpet. And you can do a certain amount of red carpet, and it's fun to do an opening and a gallery and a film thing, but that's not what you're here for. Any more questions?
Yeah, in terms of diversification, I'd like to get your views on what 3 sectors you feel like the Nigerian government should.
Oh, it's not for me to anything. Obviously you want financial, obviously you want technology, but you want manufacturing. You don't have the base. You do not have the base for a thriving, you have the education, but you don't have the infrastructure for a thriving tech sector yet. You will, but you haven't got the banking network, you haven't got the roads, you haven't got the infrastructure in terms of power, you haven't got the infrastructure in terms of telco. You will. So diversification into more agriculture, manufacturing, resource-based management, all those sort of things. And then from that, building onto it, high tech, that's an element of technology. And yes, you can do a type of Israel. You can create environments where coders can become. India did it. Their power situation is not as bad, but it's pretty bad. They managed it. India managed it. So yeah, there is a possibility of a tech sector. Next question. Any more? Have I thoroughly depressed you all?
Not at all. You've mentioned a lot of issues in Nigeria, which I feel everyone around here knows what is actually a problem in Nigeria. What are the problems in Nigeria? Electricity. We're majorly consumers. We're not manufacturers. What advice will you give us young people to our corrupt politicians? Because
hold them to account.
We do this every day, but you also mentioned that we should be consistent about it. Like you did that yesterday. That doesn't mean that you should stop today.
Correct.
So what other thing aside
well,
from
you have to collectively discuss it.
Okay.
You don't. I mean, when I say collectively, I don't mean between yourselves as rivals, but within your organisations. You have to sit down with it, and it's not easy because, frankly, some of your bosses and your owners are as corrupt as everybody else. And they're going to try and stop you. But you have a way of dealing with it. You have a voice. So maybe you don't, right, to your point, maybe you don't take the big issue on. Corruption in government. But you find an example of it with something relevant that you do deal with. Do you see where I'm going with this? You find something that's in your life. Don't necessarily worry about the $43 million that was found in the apartment. Find something in your lives that is relevant and start covering that. And yes, you can still do red carpet as well, but find something that actually speaks to you. Give me an example, go on.
Personally?
Yeah.
Okay, as an entrepreneur, I try to grind out ideas, which the policies are not working for me. Financially, finance.
Right. Give me an example of what you've written about lately, or what you could write about more of, or what you could do more of. Any of you?
I have
have a huge issue with, like I said before, I mean, we can keep saying we are the future of tomorrow, but I also have a huge issue with, one of the things I wrote about recently was how people my age, from my state, or a lot of people were celebrating Ibori's release. Like
Celebrating
James Ibori.
James Ibori's release. I mean, people were on the streets dancing, and I was wondering, like, what is happening? I mean, I saw former classmates of mine, they were posting on Facebook, oh, he was a thief, but he was a generous thief, and I'm asking, what does that even mean? So, I feel like, as much as we keep saying we are the future, we need to do something about our mindset, about
Yes.
how we're thinking.
Completely. Absolutely. But it's not going to happen overnight. You each drop a pebble into the water in the same way that I drop a pebble into the water. Now maybe my pebble is a little bit bigger than yours and it makes a bigger ripple, but that's just because I'm older and I've been doing it longer. But each of you, when you print a story tomorrow or you publish tonight, you will think about, okay, this is just one pebble. Well, that didn't have many ripples. That didn't have many ripples. And suddenly, you're putting a pebble in, and you're putting a pebble in, and before long the ripples start. You won't notice it, it'll happen very slowly. And you'll be discouraged, and you'll think this is a waste of time. And you'll think, oh God, why don't I go into PR? But it will turn round because this country has the most enormous potential that I've ever seen. And one of the things that I find very exciting is that potential. Any more questions?
Yeah, I imagine that you've had a handful of Nigerian dishes. Would you recommend Nigerian cuisine as a viable export to boost normal revenue?
No. Yes, of course. Yes, but what would you say is a Nigerian dish?
Okay, like the jollof rice.
Yeah, but hang on, just about every other country in the region has their version. I told you, I read this out earlier. Brilliant. Somebody tweeted this to me, which I thought was just wonderful. I'm just going to read it to you. It was the best tweet I've had for ages. If Jollof Rice was a hot girl at the bar, two boys named Nigeria and Ghana would be fighting for her attention, but she would go home with Senegal. I think that's just lovely. I think that is absolutely.
But there's a reply to that.
Sorry?
There's a reply to
Oh,
that.
I wanted it. What?
Because Senegal will be the Uber driver.
Sorry?
Senegal will be the Uber driver.
Brilliant. You see, I love that. Love that. Any more questions?
Yes, hello. Yes, good afternoon. I want to ask, do you see Nigeria as a global destination for tourism?
Very interesting that, because I'm meeting the tourism minister this afternoon, and I've had discussions with him before. Of course, it's a destination for tourism. But now, tell me, what the tourist does when they're here.
Most of them, when they come.
No. What tourism are you selling?
Oh, we have different historical sites in Nigeria, here in Lagos. Some are in Southwest, some are actually in Southeast.
But what is your tourism product?
We've not been intentional about it.
But what is the tourism product? What would people come to Nigeria for? This is your answer, not mine.
The heritage and culture.
Heritage and culture. Right. Excellent. This is what the minister says. This is exactly what the minister. I think is absolutely right. You've got to look at what you've got around you. Well, you're not going to come here for the big five. You're going to go to South Africa or Kenya. If you want excitement and you want sun and whatever and luxury, you're going to go to Dubai. You're in competition with Morocco, Casablanca, and what's the other place in Morocco?
Tunisia.
No, what's
Marrakesh.
that? Marrakesh, thank you. Egypt, well, a bit of a basket case at the moment in terms of tourism because of the problems got. But interestingly, south of Egypt, the numbers hold up there in Sharm el Sheikh. Cairo's still got the pyramids. So you've got to ask yourself, well, hang on a second. First of all, how do we get people here? We want a tourism industry, but we have to have airlift. And then the second question is, well, where tourism? Now I would strongly suggest before you start looking at tourism from, high-spending France, the United Kingdom, Germany, and the United States, you've got all the surrounding countries to get the tourism, Pan-African, regional tourism first, where you're going to make far more money than bringing 3 plane loads. Yes, the plane loads coming in from Europe will spend more, but you're going to get far greater numbers coming in. So yeah, absolutely tourism. Absolutely tourism. Once you've worked out what your tourism product is, what is the tourism message that's being sold here? And you've got a security problem. Come to Nigeria, but I tell you, what's the first thing everybody asked me when I told them I was coming to Nigeria?
Is it safe?
What would you say?
I would say it's safe if you know how to navigate.
Relatively safe.
I
would say that's relative. I mean, it's safe, but it depends on where.
The perception is not as bad as the reality. Nigeria has not been intentional about this thing.
Sorry?
When you're outside Nigeria, you think bombs are dropping everywhere.
Right.
But of course, it's not the same thing when you come in. So it's Nigeria's fault. We've not been intentional about the way we said.
No, I think Nigeria does need to do a better job getting the message out. I think but it's bloody hard to get the message out when 250 odd people girls get kidnapped. It's bloody hard. Now, look, I know that is hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away. It's on the other side of the country. In the same way that if I'm in Los Angeles, there are parts of LA I do not go to. If I'm in New York, there are parts of New York I will not go to. I mean, I will go there, but not at night. I'm on my own. In London, there are parts of places. Any more?
That's it.
I'm okay. If anybody, any last question? Any single last question?
So if you were to sell Africa and its prospects with respect to, we're not competing with the West. You guys we're not in the same race.
Yeah.
But I think that there are some Asian countries that we're not so far away from. What do you think differentiates Africa for an investor compared to, say, instead of going to the MENA countries or going to the Middle East?
Good question. Do you mean Africa? No, it's here.
Nigeria.
You've just made the same mistake that everybody criticises me for. You've mentioned Africa as if it's a country. Do you mean North Africa? West Africa? No. If I said that, I would be round. West thinks Africa's a country. West is talking about Africa.
I get it.
Right, what are you talking about?
I can do it, you can't do it.
That's true.
I'm putting it to you.
Yes.
Because in the West, Africa is seen as an economic entity. People hardly see us as 54 countries.
Correct.
That's the truth. So that's why I'm putting it to you based on the perception of the West that should we put this business in Africa? I wouldn't want to say Nigeria because they don't say it like that. Or should we go to the Middle East? So what differentiates Nigeria? Okay then.
No.
Or West Africa?
This is the place. Africa's the place.
Yeah.
And no question.
The prospects is
huge. Africa's the place. Africa has the most potential.
Cheap labor, resources.
Cheap labour, resources, dedicated workforce, intelligent population, educated youth, thriving, dynamic, determined. The phrase I've used, and I can use this in terms of, again, I'm talking about the youth. It was said about the First World War. In the First World War, they talked about lions led by donkeys. And what you have in this country, and in many African countries, is lions led by donkeys. You have a phenomenal, look at you people are the lions. You can ask yourself who the donkeys are. You are the future. Yeah, I'm retired in a few years. You are the future. You are the ones that must not become despondent because you've written about power 12 times. Or that you've written about whatever it might be 4 times, or you've done this about fintech 5 times. So Africa is no question, it is the place to be. No question. I feel I've depressed you all.
No. If you want to see the reality, it's hard to change.
No, but the reality is, it's two sides. Give me a coin, somebody. Got a coin? Got a coin?
We don't do coins.
No, I don't have
We don't do
coins.
coins.
Well, I thought you might have a coin.
I live here.
Haven't got a coin. Imagine I've got a coin.
Even if what's a code?
No, it's two sides of the same coin or the same business card. There is the prospect, there is the prosperity, there is all the opportunity, and the other side is all the problems and the challenges. And on two sides of exactly the same coin. And on some days that'll be the important bit, and on other days that'll be the bit that's driving the argument. And you go backwards and forwards. But eventually, as long as you guys do not become disheartened, as long as you remain true to yourselves, as long as you remember why you became a journalist, because you wanted to make some change. And you're not going to make change by suddenly solving the HIV issue across West Africa. But you are going to make a change about the pothole over there, or the youth club over there, or the path over there. That's what you can do. You're much more powerful than you realise. It's quite funny to see you all. You're much more powerful than you realise. And the leaders of this country should be shit scared of you all. Because you have a direct line to the youth of this country. Use it! Get on with it! Stop listening to an old fogey like me and go and do some work. Go and earn your money.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
At this point, we will have some pictures. I really would like to know
Just what I wanted to do. Take another 20 selfies. I can hardly tell you how happy I am to be taking more selfies. So, my email address is richard.quest@cnn.com.